My name is Emily Fox-Teese and I'm the Conservation, Breeding and Monitoring Officer for the corncrake project. They're a very threatened species. Habitat loss is the main one, but they have a very difficult migration as well. There's lots of threats that they face on that just on its own. Corncrakes migrate down to Africa, so they go down to the Congo, mostly southeast Africa, but small pockets of southwest Africa as well. Another reason the corncrakes are threatened is they only live for 2 years in the wild on average, so they have a very short amount of time that they can pass on their genetics to the next generation and successfully breed. So even if the birds do survive from a chick stage to juvenile stage, they've then got that massive migration to undertake, and we know from research that only 30% of them return the following year. So it's a very difficult migration for them, and we don't really understand exactly what's happening. So it's something that we're trying to hopefully work out exactly what's going wrong, and then obviously those males that come back, and hopefully females as well, breed and then pass their genetics on to the next generation. Historically, they were on the Ouse Washes, and we'd like to bring them back. This is the habitat that they belong in, so the more we can do with them, the better. They should be here. This year we've had 9 calling males and a possible 10th. So because we've been able to survey the birds, we know what areas they're using, so we know how many males we've had. We've also been able to catch 9, and there's one that seems to have gone under the radar. We heard it for a little while and then it disappeared, so we're pretty confident we've had 10. So they fit with the strategy because they're a flagship species for wetlands, really. Wet grassland is very important for breeding corncrakes, so they're quite picky. They don't like areas that are too dry, but equally they don't like them to be too wet as well. So it's a bit of a fine balance on the Ouse Washes, obviously with it being a floodplain, but we make do. And they do seem to really like the habitat that we've got here as well. So in terms of the washes themselves, we don't really have to do a lot to them, but we do cut majority of the washes for hay, which obviously manages the height of the vegetation and helps it when it comes back the following year. Cattle are really important as well. They help us manage the sward height. Sward height is the height of the vegetation, so it's nice to have a nice range in sward height so that you've got a nice variation of habitat for those different species. They're very picky eaters as well, so they'll leave nice long areas and nice short areas, and it's very important for managing that vegetation. But also as well, they poach areas, so as well as corncrakes, they're important for other waders and other bird species. They're a nice thing as well to see on the washes. Head starting for corncrakes is really, really important. It just gives that population that we have got a bit of a boost. The birds themselves that we're releasing, they start life at Pensthorpe, where they're captive bred and they're parent reared for the first 2 weeks of life. We have very little involvement with the chicks themselves, but they are completely parent reared for those first 2 weeks. Once they're 2 weeks old, they get a full vet check, and we put a little plastic leg ring on them, and then they come over to us here at Welney, where they go into the acclimatisation aviaries, and then they stay in there for another 3 to 4 weeks, and at 35 to 40 days old, they get released out onto the washes. They are declining in the UK as well as globally as well. Obviously, the UK population has really had a crash since the 60s, to the point where their range in the UK decreased by 75%. The head starting is really important just to try and boost their numbers, as well as introduce them to new areas of the UK as well. So the last strongholds are up in Scotland, sort of the Highlands and Islands, and a little bit of the top of Ireland as well. But as I mentioned, those populations are decreasing as well. So we've had 52 chicks come to us so far this year. We're obviously still not quite done yet, and 29 of those have been released. So we've still got a few in the pens that are still a little bit too young to be released at the moment. So we'll keep hold of those for a little bit longer, and then they'll join their siblings and cousins. Once we know that they're old enough to be released, they get a vet check from our ZSL team. They check the body condition of the bird, see if there's any issues, and if they're generally in good condition, they then get a BTO leg ring, which helps us identify them once we've released them, which is very, very important for our monitoring work. And they then get brought out to this lovely habitat, and we choose washes that have got really good habitat for corncrakes. So the wash that we've got out behind us has had a male calling in it this year, so we know this is good corncrake habitat, and it's a lovely place for them to live. So we need to make sure that what we're releasing them into is suitable for them, but also in terms of the reserve management itself, where the cattle are. So we don't want to be releasing birds that are going into fields that have got cattle in, just in case, just to give them that little bit extra protection, and also to make sure that we know where the cows are and where they can get to, as well as where the chicks can go. Obviously, they'll spread out as they get older and as they start to explore, but just give them that initial bit of protection. We've had a very good year this year for returning birds. So obviously with the 9 males that came back, that was really, really exciting, particularly as one of them was unringed. I was very excited when we realised that bird was unringed. That's proof that corncrakes are successfully breeding on the Ouse Washes, particularly as we know it was a year old. So we can tell that from the angle on the wing feathers, but also the colour of the eye as well. And we're fairly confident that it was born and raised on the Ouse Washes last year. So that was very exciting for the project. Long-term goal for the corncrake project is to create a sustainable population on the Ouse Washes, but also the wider area as well. Corncrakes are a species that belong on the Ouse Washes, and we'd like to see them back here completely. The area that we're managing for corncrake could hold 30 to 50 corncrakes, which would be really, really amazing. Just to be out there and hear 6 males calling at once is phenomenal. So to hear 30 in one go would just be, I think I would have gone to heaven to hear 30 in one go.